What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are looking back at the previous year and figuring out what were the best games released in 2023. So number 10, we have Everdell Farshore, which is a reimplementation essentially of the original Everdell. Everdell Farshore is essentially a worker placement game and a tableau builder. What you're going to be doing on your turn is building the cute little city with cards and inhabiting that cute little city with cute little creatures, and then sending out your workers to collect cute little resources that are squishy. If you like Everdell and if you've watched this channel, you know we're going to like this game as well. It's just incorporating a bunch of the stuff that the expansions added into this base game.
With Farshore, I felt that it is a very good game. Standalone game, if you don't compare it to Everdell at all, it's a very good game.
Oh yeah.
Problem is that we have all of Everdell and the entire, all the expansions, so it just feels like a simplified version of the base game of Everdell plus all the expansions.
There are some improvements. You know, the boat track is a really neat way to sort of guide newer players what they should be doing on the round, because you'll move that boat track and get various resources. Hey, there's Goosey in the new year. You'll get those resources depending on how far you move down that track, and usually every round it is encouraging you to do something different. And also, there's a good way to sort of cycle through the deck in that the cards that get placed, when they get placed in the meadow, they can stack if they're the same card. So there are differences, but they're not huge enough to make it a completely different game.
I do feel like it's a base game 2.0. It's the improved version of the base. Not that the base game needed much improving, but it's a different version of it.
Yeah. If you don't own Everdell and you've never played it before, I would probably buy Farshore. If you own the original game and you have no expansions, don't bother. Just buy a couple of expansions and you'll be fine. Yes. If you own the complete collection, you're stuck with that game for the rest of your life because it's gigantic. And at number 9, we have Age of Innovation, which is somewhat of a reimplementation of Terra Mystica, although
it's exactly the same.
Pretty similar. They don't share the same name.
That's about it.
Yeah, and this for the people at home, this is going to be the last reimplementation that we've decided upon this list. There's lots of reimplementations I really enjoyed. The new Great Western Trail, you know, Dune, but I don't want to bog down a list of new games with just...
Because they're not new.
No, exactly. It's sort of like start standing on the shoulders of giants, you know? Like, is Age of Innovation great because it's Age of Innovation, or is it great because it's just kind of based on a pre-existing game that was, you know, brilliant? If you're unfamiliar with it, it like I said, it is Terra Mystica, a terraforming game where you're terraforming the land of this shared player board, building out buildings for victory points. I mean, it's a very tightly 6-round structure act where each round you're given a certain objective that you try to achieve to attain more victory points. Good player interaction. In that you were incentivized to build next to people. It does add a bit. The book track, for example, book is a new resource that it adds. That gives you a bit more variety. And the player races themselves are new in that instead of having a highly structured player race, this one's a little more open-ended, where you can essentially build on it as you go on. So it's not as narrowing.
But it felt like the same game. So it was a good game, but Terra Mystica is a great game. So
yeah, exactly. Just like Everdell, like this game's kind of on here because we like the 2 original games. And then number 8, we have the Fox Experiment. If you're not familiar with the Fox Experiment, it is a game in which you are drafting from a shared pool of male and female foxes.
You pick the mummies and daddies.
You make them
make babies.
You make them make babies. Yeah, you essentially roll dice, which are a representation of their genetic traits. And then you're sort of mixing and matching these symbols to form a whole new fox, which you will then send off into the world to breed with other foxes. It's a fairly cute, light game that I can see this being a crowd pleaser in a family setting, especially for children. And it's going to come down to that sort of gimmicky, like naming your fox.
It's the best part.
It is the best part. It's the most fun part.
Don't be like Mike and name all of his the same name.
And name them all George.
Like George the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. I don't know. I think I was
George Foreman.
8th,
George Foreman.
I got hit by Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, Ken Norton, Evander Holyfield. You let them hit you and see how many names you can remember.
But like we said, you should go into this game expecting a lighter fare because the decision space is fairly sparse, and it does feel like a lot of the turns you take, they're not scripted, but sometimes the options are a little off. But regardless of that fact, we still enjoyed it. It's saying something.
Yeah, it's a very simple game, but I think a big part of why you and I loved it, it was just so different.
It was
right. Like, it's always fun to get. Why do we love board games in the first place? There's a different type of game for everyone, right? Yeah. And it's a very unique theme.
It is,
and it's so very unique. Just like mechanic almost. Like it's so fun the way the theme and the actual action, like, and it makes you feel like you're actually breeding foxes in that way.
A little bit, yeah. I know we don't have much experience breeding foxes, but
No, but you pick the mom and dad, and then you have a baby.
Yeah.
And then rolling dice for genes and stuff. I like that kind of chance thing because that's kind of how it is for real genetics, right?
Yeah,
You never know. You never know what you could end up with.
You never know what you're gonna get. But yeah, it's true, and it's nice that it's a different theme. You know, a lot of board game themes sort of start to feel samey at some point.
Yeah.
And even though I have no interest in breeding foxes, it's just refreshing to have something that's a little unique. And then at number 7, we have Distilled. Distilled is an incredibly thematic Euro game that's entirely card driven, where you'll going into the market phase, sort of buying new cards that are going to upgrade your distillery, or your barrels to age them, or getting new recipes. And then
Making alcohol.
you're making alcohol in this game.
I think the big selling point of this game is how unique it is. Like a lot of these games on all this, and a lot of games came out this year, there's such unique themes. And I think this is kind of where, like for us, for example, we love board games. Not all our friends love board games. A lot of friends are like, they'll do party games and stuff.
Yeah.
But the way you get your friends into board games is like one of my friends has an app on his phone, like he tracks every single beer he drinks ever and rates them all. And he's more likely to be willing to play Distill if it's a more like serious game, because it's like, stuff that he's interested in. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot more board games this year have come out that really hit that middle circle and that Venn diagram of overlapping interests. Yeah. And I think that's a big selling point.
Yeah, there's only so many times you can sell a game where you're trading in the Mediterranean or delving into a dungeon, Like it's just nice to have a difference of themes. And mechanically, it's a pretty solid game. It's a pretty solid game. It's a middleweight game. It's enjoyable. Like I said, we like that push your luck element.
Mm-hmm. I just really like making the alcohol and like letting it age and stuff, and then you complete these recipes, and there is a satisfaction to making all these things. Mm-hmm. And I feel, at least for us, it was quite a bit of a learning too, being like, this is how this is made. This is the ingredients that go into this thing.
Yeah. So if this game better be accurate, because if it's not accurate, I'm going to end up in a party situation where I'm telling like a cocktail story and be like, to make alcohol, you add 2 cards that are yeast and one line. I'm going to look like a fool if that's not accurate.
It's fun to learn about new stuff and be exposed in that way. I feel like that makes that's why we love a bunch of these games from this year, is that they're so different, mm-hmm. right? One big thing about like when we want to try new games is when I look at a game, from first class, I'm like, if this is similar to a game I already love, I'm like, can this really beat what I already know and love? But when I try a game like this and like everything is so new, mm-hmm. that's it. It sparks that joy again for me.
And then at number 6, we have Raising Robots, which is a quality little gem that you might not have heard of at all. It kind of came in under the radar. It's more or less a pure engine building game, kind of reminiscent of Wingspan, I suppose.
Only in the board layout.
Mostly just in the board layout. In that you activate an engine, and when you activate that engine, which essentially is a row on your board, it activates all the robots that you've placed on that board, which is similar to Wingspan, I suppose. So when you select your actions, you take 2 actions that you want to perform, and then once you've selected those 2, you randomly draw 2 power cards, and that's going to determine how much energy goes into those actions. And sometimes people who didn't even pick those actions can be able to perform them if there's an excess amount of energy that goes to the publicly shared board. The game's fun. It's fun. It's fun for what it is. Enjoy the theme. Obviously, cute little robots. All the art's really pretty.
I love this game. I absolutely love this game. Yes, you can.
I really liked it. I love
robots already. It's like Wingspan has always been like, it's okay for me, but I love this game.
It's a fun game, and I love the upgrade structure. So essentially, you can upgrade the robots that you've placed out by taking a little upgrade token from a part of your board and then placing it on the card. And what's interesting is that it upgrades not only the card that you placed it on, but it also upgrades the area you took it off. So as the game progresses, your factory for robots gets stronger and stronger. And that's a lot of fun too.
And all the robot cards too are also cute and
really unique too.
And there's so many different strategies you can go down. So yeah, really love this game.
Yeah, the art and theme just makes for a really approachable game, a really approachable family game. And the fact that it's all simultaneous actions for the most part is also really approachable, because it means there's very minimal downtime, and it just constantly feels like it's your turn, which is always wonderful in these types of games, especially when they're like 60 minutes, because the game just never overstays its welcome. Definitely worth checking out. And then at number 5, we have Earth, super talked about game. I think 7 or 8 months ago, everybody was talking about this game. It's like, it's the Ark Nova.
Overrated. Overrated.
I would actually say the same thing. I would say it's an overrated game, but I also think it's a good game.
It's good, but it's people compare it to Ark Nova and stuff. I'm like, it's not as good as that. It's good. It's not like
It's its own thing.
legendary.
It's its own thing. Like it plays relatively quickly. It's a pure and simple engine building card tableau game with following actions, which we discussed previously that we really enjoy. And this game has it as well, where you would pick your action that you want to do, and then everybody else can do the same action, but it's a weaker version. It hits those dopamine hits like really hard and really fast because there's lots of comboing. And if you match the colors with the colors that you have on your own player board, you get more stuff. It's an enjoyable game, and I could see why a lot of people like it and why it was the sort of the buzz of town for quite some time.
It's a very good game. I hated, and I use that word, I strongly mean it, the little towers of the tree you had to build. So finicky, they kept falling, and I got my small nails, and it's like so hard to like stack them because something just knocked one over. And you can't move your card at all. If your dog knocks your table, the whole thing just falls over. Annoying. So better, what do you call them? Like little thing mechanisms, please. So that's better.
Make them magnets or something.
Yeah, people need to like use magnets more often. Like it's so much more useful for things that are magnetic. Anyways,
but it's a really good game too, and there's lots of variability too. Like you're talking about a giant stack of cards. It's not reinventing the wheel. This game isn't reinventing the wheel. I would say this year it was the epitome of like a lot of games coming out that aren't doing anything entirely new, except for maybe our top two. But what they're doing well. Like there's a reason Earth is number 5 on our list. It's a solid game. And at number 4, we have Evenfall, which is a card tableau builder with a bit of worker placement and a bit of area control. It is one of those games that somewhat feels like a hodgepodge of different mechanisms, but here I think it works really, really well. Because the other components that are added onto it, like the area control and worker placement, are relatively simple. Area control is just you put your witch out, it contributes 1 power, and then you can contribute a mana, which is an additional power.
I was so pleasantly surprised at this game.
Yeah,
like
sure.
I didn't.
It looked really boring when our friend whipped it out. I was like, oh, this looks boring.
It's a very misleading game because I definitely thought it would be a lot more like too simplistic in some way. Like it's just like, oh, you just build your cards kind of thing, and that wasn't a really strong selling point. But the actual execution and play of this game was so addictive. Yeah,
it was, and there's a really tight decision space in that you're making some really tough decisions because essentially you have your inner and outer circle, and when you play cards in your outer circle, they're generating resources which you need to build more cards. But then at some point, those cards in your outer circle have to move to your inner circle at the bottom of your tableau to be able to get victory points at the end. And it's the same with the specialists that you get. Either you put them to the left of your tableau and they're specialists and they give you persistent power, or you put them at the bottom and they become council members and they can sometimes give you victory points or contribute additional powers. And there's a lot of like really interesting decisions in that, which is going to be tough for a new player, but an experienced player is going to really like that. If you want a fuller review of this game and what we really think, you should check our review because we did that like 2 weeks ago. So definitely give it a view. We liked it. Spoiler. And at number 3, we have the White Castle. Not to be confused with White Castle, it's the White Castle, which is a dice placement game. Essentially just become our de facto go-to 3-player game that plays in like an hour. It's a lot of fun. Like a lot of the other games, it's not necessarily reinventing the wheel, but when it does it really well. I especially like the way the game incentivizes you to take lower numbered dice. I often find that in these types of games, you never want to take the lower side.
No, I never want to go down dice.
Yeah, typically, but in this one, you kind of do.
I still don't.
Okay, well, this game you kind of do because like it triggers a lantern effect because it falls on the left side of the bridge, and when that lantern effect triggers, you have your own personal board, and whatever cards you have lined up on your lantern effect also trigger. So as the game progresses, you get this feeling of progression of power, and that your thing gets more and more powerful. And there's a lot of like subtle interaction in the game, which is nice. Because I can look over at another person's board and I can see that they're gunning for certain colors.
It's not interaction. It's he steals the dice I want or he blocks the spot that I want to go to.
No, but besides that, I'm saying besides the typical like worker placement, like, haha, I went to a spot you went to. No, because...
That's not haha, it's just me. Mike's me.
No, but like when you build farmers, and those farmers can trigger, but they only trigger when there's at least 1 die left on that bridge and there's 3 different colors. So you can kind of look over other people's boards and be like, okay, I don't think they're going to be going for black dice because it's just not something they need. And I like that type of interaction. It's good.
Whatever you take, whether it's a low dice or a big dice, there's always a perk to it. And then you can really make your luck in this game by choosing to go a different strategy than what everyone else is going.
None of the actions feel unrewarding. It always feels like you are being rewarded. They may not necessarily be optimal, but they do feel rewarding.
the first, like, I don't know, like the handful of times that we played, I was like ignoring the farms a lot because I'm like, everyone else is fighting for the same farm spots. Plus, it's quite costly to put a farmer out there. And it was fine. I didn't lose every time. It was still like a good mix of who won and who lost. So I felt like it doesn't pigeonhole you in any way to go for one strategy or another. You just kind of go with what feels like is best for you.
Yeah, and there's a lot of variability too, because those actions that you perform, they're based a lot of times on cards that are coming out, and those cards can always be different. So things never really felt repetitive. We played it quite a bit, and they never felt like we were doing the same thing or engaging in the exact same strategy over and over and over again. So it's a great game, definitely worth checking out. Great price point, and like I said before, if you're unfamiliar with the game or you want to see a playthrough of the game, definitely check out our playthrough and review because it's under 30 minutes. You know, like most times, I'm gonna toot my own horn here. A lot of times when people release playthroughs, they are unedited. It's just like, here's our playthrough. It took an hour and a half, blah. Whereas this one's tightly edited. So
that's one thing we debated about when we were talking about whether we wanted to do a playthrough of like post playthroughs online. And I was like, I hate watching playthroughs. So I always have like play it 2 or 3 times the speed. And I was like, jump to parts that are interesting because I don't want to sit there for 3 hours watching you play a game.
No, this one's snappy.
Yeah.
And it fits a review again. So 30 minutes playthrough and a review. Check it out. The White Castle. And then at number 2, which we were sort of debating as to where we should place number 2 and 1, and because I felt we loved them both so much, we weren't sure, but this is what we decided on. Number 2 is Hegemony.
Hegemony.
Hegemony is a brilliant political economic card-driven game where you play as either the state, the working class, the middle class, or the capitalists. Yeah, and basically you're trying to fulfill your role and pursue your own personal agenda while working in tandem with other people, both against other players who you think might be winning and to help yourself.
But also working with other players. Like, one thing that I've never seen a lot of board games do very well is facilitate conversation and negotiation outside of the game. It just replicates like all these classes and kind of their place in a society really well.
Yeah, it does. And what's interesting is that when I first saw this game, I was like hesitant to play it because I was like, oh, this is going to be like some ham-fisted, poorly researched critique of capitalism or something. But it's not. Like you could approach this game believing whatever you believe and walk away feeling fulfilled and like you played a really cool game where you learned about something. Like I could see this in classrooms, like teachers handing this out. I mean, it'd be tough. You have to be like high school kids, I guess. But I
like learning economics or something. I feel like this would be, a way to like simulate it.
Yeah, because you see the sort of symbiotic relationship that each class has with one another. The game definitely facilitates a certain light role playing that I think you're not going to see in a board game. Like most of the games we've played have resulted in like the odd moment of like a person sort of like taking up their class and being like, yeah, I'm the working class. I'm going to revolt. I'm going to do this. And the capitalists be like, no, I'm going to make money. And that's cool. It's cool. And like there's countless times I remember like the middle class and the working class having these conversations where it's like, well, come on, the state's oppressing us. We have to gather together against the state and the capitalists and work as one.
Yeah, I think
it's cool.
It is very cool because there's many times you hear these conversations and you really try to form like allies. You know, a lot of games talk about the lack of player interaction, but this game specifically really requires you to be friends with who you're playing with. And and the play interaction isn't only like what's on the board and the voting. You had a bunch of if you vote for my bill, I'll vote for your bill.
It feels like what you would expect a political game to feel like, and that it's like the scratch your back. If there's a lot of like elements where it's like I'll scratch your back, you scratch my back. Okay, I'll help you with this bill that you're trying to pass, but then in a later turn, I want you to help with my bill, or I'll help with this bill, but you gotta come and you gotta purchase the healthcare that I'm selling, so I can make some money. It's a lot of cool deals.
But like unofficial deals. It's not like cards or anything that
Yeah,
exactly.
It's organic.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a game that's actually truly engaging. And I would argue that this is one of those games, sort of like Twilight Imperium, where everybody should just play it once, even if it's not the game. Like I would not recommend this game to buy for everybody because it's going to need a dedicated play group. But it is a game that you should try. You should definitely try it once because it's a unique, thought-provoking and engaging experience. And if you want more information on this game and what our detailed description and opinions of this game are, wait for our review because it'll be coming relatively soon. And then at number 1, highly anticipated, the #1 game of all time, of 2023, is Voidfall. Voidfall. We reviewed this game as well. So if you want more information on it, or a more detailed description, check that out. But Voidfall, a fantastic pseudo 4X game, giant space opera. Takes about 3 hours to play. Takes about 3 hours to set up. This is an awesome game. It's one of those games where you could just tell that a bunch of love was just poured into the design process. Like, this probably took years to develop, and it shows. And despite the fact that there's all these like different mechanisms and all these friggin' symbols, don't even get us started on the symbols. Oh my God, you were just drowning in symbols.
No, only for the first.
For the first couple.
But the second game remembered everything.
Yeah, it's true. But even despite all that, it's just I had fun. I had fun. Even at the beginning when I didn't know what was going on, I knew I was having fun. I was like, oh, this game is for me.
This game is insanely overwhelming. Like,
you were drowning when you first started.
That's a thing that I'm like, okay, it's a great game. It's a fantastic game. I'm put #1 for a reason, but it is huge. So it's not the kind of game like after a long day of work, you're tired. Like, let's just whip it out and try. No. You have to like plan for it. Maybe like even an all-day affair. Just be like, we'll set the game up and then play it. Because it'll take you a long time to play a first playthrough because it's a lot to learn. Yeah. But it's so worth. Even the first time we played, I could tell like, man, there's so many details in this. So many details in this that you just feel like excited because you know there's more stuff coming. But the second time we played, that's when like I fell in love with the game because it was like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I have a strategy now. I know like, okay, I want to acquire those type of cards. I know like to focus on this thing, and then you have your own like player power and type of cards that you have, the special unique player card you have. Like, you can really maximize and be more efficient once you know like the basics. You don't have to refer to every single icon and refer to the book. Like, once you have the basics down,
it becomes intuitive after a while.
Game.
Yeah, and it's funny because like it's complicated, but when you start playing after a couple of games,
intuitive.
It stops feeling complicated because you realize that the actions you perform are more or less straightforward. It's just that you get so overwhelmed. And for me and for Kim, I think we enjoy the process of being overwhelmed, I think. Because you have this hand of cards, and from that hand of cards, I think it's 9 or 10. You have that hand of cards, and from that hand of cards, you're going to choose what you're going to perform for the round, for your turn. And from that card itself, you're choosing two of the 3 actions on the card. And you're choosing the order of those actions. And if you play a trade token, you're performing all 3 of those actions.
This is the kind of game that you live for.
I think so.
Like, it's the kind of stuff that you get, like playing, I don't know, Monopoly now, it does nothing. We don't even want to play it, right? No. But playing Catan is like, it's okay. It's still doable. Playing Voidfall, I think I could see, in 5 years and 10 years, it's still being one of those games that like, you're excited to play still. Because there's still so much that you'll never fully become a master at it.
No, there's lots of variability in this game. A lot of interesting variability beyond just like the typical stuff that you expect, like the fact that there's like, oh my God, I don't know, it's like more than a dozen different player races. And then there's like, you got the scenario book, and it's like this giant tome of all these different scenarios to play that have a recommendation of what characters to put out, what technologies to put out. And everything's just always feels different, and everything just feels so well crafted. Yeah, so Voidfall is a brilliant game. You should absolutely check it out. If you're not going to buy it, like I said, we wouldn't recommend. It's same as our review. Go watch that. We didn't recommend that everybody buy it because it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. But definitely give it a shot. Give it a shot. I think it carves out a really wonderful, unique space within that overly bloated 4X genre. So that's it. That about wraps it up. So we played quite a few games that were released in 2023, and these are the 10 best one. It took a lot of arguing and back and forth and deciding where to place them and whether or not some shouldn't get placed. There are some games that I would say that should be on here that aren't currently.
And I'd say some games that are on the list here that should be there. Not that bad games, just not like personal, like top 10 level favorite.
Yeah. But this was a pretty good year for gaming. There was a lot of reimplementations, which is unfortunate. We're not huge fans of it, reimplementations.
Yeah, that's how we feel about it. There's some people love it, I'd rather games be a different game altogether.
Yeah, and that's it. That's the whole review.
And look out for a whole another year of board game videos with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for watching. Happy New Year. Goodbye.
See you next one. Bye.
Thanks.